Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tides of Death. So we're going to skip ahead a few more years here. You are learning with Master Merlin in his tower over in Hillsborough. And Master Merlin is a very strict instructor, which has its pros and cons, you know? He's great at teaching you things, and he makes you practice until you get a concept, and you learn rather quickly, but he's also exacting in all of his details. He makes a point of the expenses of having an apprentice around. Not just the time, but the resources. He buys you a spell book, and a spell book is hugely expensive. It's like 1,000 GP for a spell book. And so this spell book that you that you write your notes down in, he holds behind a locked door with the verbal warning he gives you one time that he doesn't want you to like take your spell book and run away and leave him high and dry. You have been bound to me for 15 years of service, and I'm gonna get my 15 years out of you. So your spell book will stay behind my locked doors until such time as your debts have been repaid. How does Nilrem feel about that?
Nilrem has never liked being bound. He really likes his freedom on the sea. He remembers back to being in the servant class, not fondly. He loved the freedom of the sea, and he probably wants to go back to that after he feels like he garners enough knowledge of like how to be a wizard that he can continue doing it himself. So he's using this as like a means to an end. He originally signed the contract because he assumed that he wasn't trying to like fuck him, but once he realizes that he's kind of got him by the balls, he has no qualms with doing what he can to get out once he's garnered the info he wants.
Got it. Well, your years here will go by fairly quickly. The first thing that he has to do is teach you how to read, because you can't be a wizard, you can't cast spells, you can't even study spells until you learn how to read. And that is something I believe that you will pick up quite quickly with your 18 intelligence. So why don't you give me a series of intelligence checks until you pass, which is the very first one. So, within the first few days of studying, you are able to quickly start sounding out the whole alphabet. You start putting together small words. Within the first month, you're able to read passages, and by the end of the first 3 months, you are working at like, a 6th grade reading level or something, which quickly and rapidly builds on itself. Give me a charisma check at the same time. Yeah, you can see the pride in Merlin's eyes as he takes this illiterate pirate scum off the streets and like saves him from a beheading and teaches him to read, and how quickly he picks him up. This means that Merlin is the greatest instructor of all. If he can take some nobody off the streets and get them to read within a few months, Merlin has got to be the greatest teacher of all. He goes and shows you off to his other, not quite wizard buddies, but his other friends. He takes you to the wizarding store where they have like the components and the reagents and the inks and the papers, and he like has you look at things, and you can overhear him, praising himself for your instruction. Merlin,
this whole time Nilrem is like he's happy that he knows that he can learn quickly. He's happy with himself, and he sees, I would assume, that Merlin is thinking it's all him, but Nilrem knows it's actually all me, and I'm just biding my time with this stupid wizard until I can get the fuck out of here.
Yeah,
I'll play his games until I'm ready to stop.
He teaches you literacy right away, and at the same time, part of the teaching of literacy is the reading of the histories of the mages of the world. He's got all these tomes that have like, this was Drexel the Bloodthirsty. He helped Malchus in the War of Creation. And you'll read all these passages about Drexel the Bloodthirsty, and then you'll read these passages about Falstaff, the Sorcerer of Light, who helped unite Akuba under this rule and created this tracking system for mages to be in order to like find a wizard anywhere in the world. Merlin teaches you the importance of a person's true name, how the name that someone is given at birth is somehow bound to them in a way that allows someone who knows that name to potentially find them with the right spells, with the right knowledge. A person's first name is key and important, and it is for that reason that many wizards often take pseudonyms and hide their original name. He teaches you the importance of blood and how it functions very similarly to a person's name, and that it can be used to pinpoint an individual, and that a wizard had best make sure no other person is able to get a sample of their blood or pull hairs from their head. Keep all of your body parts to yourself. And he teaches you his specialization. Merlin is a dimensionalist. There are not many of them around. Merlin is the only dimensionalist of note in Arcadia, he claims. And he will teach you his secrets and his spells. He'll show you things like rope trick, where he creates extra dimensional space that you can crawl up into, and he'll have you explore it. He will show you how an enlarge spell works, and its reverse, reduce, and shift your size until you basically double in space, and then like shrink back down, and he'll shrink you down to like 10% of your actual size and allow you to like creep under doors and show you how the shape changing works. And he will show you the ways of various herbs and poultices.
Apparently it's still lagging, or it started lagging a little bit.
Okay, let me adjust. Yeah. Fuck. Let me change this setting over here. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dad's Death. Hope that we are not having any more lag problems. So, where we left off, you were learning these skills.
What's the highest spell that he can cast?
Ooh, the highest level spell that Merlin can cast?
Yeah, I was just curious how good he is.
Yeah. Let's see. You will have seen Merlin cast Polymorph Self. You have seen him turn himself into a sparrow and take off from his windowsill one time.
Interesting.
Yes. I think that's probably your best indication of Merlin's power level.
Yeah.
Okay. During this time that you're reading through these histories of long lost mages and in the depth of your studies, maybe 9 months in, you will come across an entry about a fountain of youth, an ancient magical artifact said to be created in the first days of the world that seems to move, although it's far too large to ever be moved, and the magical nature of it does seem to prevent its mobility. It does seem to crop up in different places. It's theorized that there is just one fountain of youth that somehow manages to change locations. And this, I believe, is what draws Nilrem's attention the most. Tell us about your readings of this fountain of youth.
Yeah, so back to the ship after they got all the treasure and stuff. Nilrem would have went back to his room and probably had some sort of true fear come but later about his situation where he almost died. He didn't realize until later at how close he was to actually dying, probably hearing his sailor friends talk about how they've never seen anyone get out of that, sent him on a wave of really bad fear. So Nilrem is very intrigued when he learns about the Fountain of Youth, which will prevent him from aging and dying that way. So Nilrem would pore through this book and see if he can find any more stuff about it.
Yeah. You find a few entries on it. How some of these early people during the Age of Mist must have found the Fountain of Youth, because the histories of the wizards during the Age of Mist make it seem like they were around for hundreds of years despite being human. During the first real age, the Age of Heroes, when things first started getting written down, it's clear that some of these heroes that founded this age, that brought people into written histories, into structured empires, into towns and cities that will persist instead of just being taken over quick by new forces over and over again. Some of these heroes end up living for 500 years during the Age of Heroes. And then it's somewhere during the Age of Empires that the legends of the Fountain of Youth begin to dwindle. The beginning of the Age of Empires, there it's mentioned a couple of times, and then after 200 years, all references of it vanish, or all first-person sightings vanish. There are other people writing about it. You have some text written by some wizard near the end of the Age of Empires the Age of Might that tells you, or that talks about these documents they found and sort of gives new, fresh accounts, but it's all written from much later in date. At this point in time, Merlin is still locking up your spellbook every night. You can use it when you're in front of him, and he'll guide you in your careful writings on it, reminding you that this book is hugely expensive. The paper is specially crafted and specially treated so as to be water resistant and fire resistant. And he'll show you how you can submerge your spellbook in water and it'll come out fine as long as you air it out properly. But if you merge these other papers in water, even if you shake them out and air them out, they begin to warp and twist and get brittle and useless.
Does Nilrem ever make scrolls?
Nilrem...
Or not Nilrem, sorry, Merlin.
You don't see Merlin crafting magical scrolls ever. He has a few on hand, but it's not a thing that he frequently uses. It's possible that he's able to make them and he just does so in secret, or it might be something that's beyond him.
Okay. If he's ever out for the day as a sparrow, at this point, do I have detect magic?
Yes.
If he's ever out for the day as a sparrow, I'm going to go around with detect magic and see if I can find a scroll. What I'm going to be looking for is some way to get out with my spellbook. So if I smash the window and take the spellbook, obviously he's going to know, right? But if I am able to, plane shift or go to the ethereal plane and then run out that way and get on a boat, I'm looking for a way to be able to escape him.
Well, yeah, so at this moment, in theory, you could just run away, but then you wouldn't have your spell components, you wouldn't have your spell book. The ability to recreate one would be like a hugely daunting task. You wouldn't have the ink or anything like that. You'd kind of just be fucked. Finding a way to get your spell book so that you can escape and still have your magic in tow, some components and some inks would be nice, and those are all like kept locked in together, is definitely the key. So you look for something that will help you escape using your detect magic spell.
Yeah, so mainly looking for, he's a dimensionalist, so I would know a lot about, I would probably learn about teleportation, plane shifting, ethereal plane. I'd learn about all these things. I know he can do it, so there's probably something around that he probably doesn't make for himself, but he might sell to the Baron, for example. So that's what I'd look around for.
Yeah. Roll me a d6.
Don't want high or low.
I don't know yet. I just know what tables we're going to be looking at. And roll me a d20 on top of that.
1-9. I cannot kill the wizard with a dagger.
We cannot kill him with a dagger. No.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah. You will find with your detect magic spell a box in Merlin's bedroom, tucked underneath his bed, that is radiating a strong source of magic. It is a wooden chest with like nice 1.5-inch thick oak, bound with large brass strips that go around it, and the lid of it is also bound on the inside and out with brass and heavily held together with these rivets all over it. This box is definitely too strong for you to break into. You'd need like a chisel and a sledgehammer and a bunch of time to crack this sucker open.
The type of magic, I got a 10% chance to get it. Which, if I don't know if you roll or I roll, but if I roll, I didn't get it.
10% chance, huh? No, you don't get the school. Yeah.
And it's locked.
It's locked.
And I would need a chisel to chisel into it.
You'd need like a chisel and a sledgehammer. It would be, this chest is constructed to be nigh impossible to open.
What happens if you... What happens if I take a lock, right, that's on a chest? It's probably fits snugly, yeah? What happens if I reduce that lock? Would it crush the stuff around it that is like holding it in? Does that make sense? So if like the lock is like clasped to a thing and I reduce the lock, or I guess I enlarge the lock, will it break the stuff around it or no?
It has the possibility to, but only if the stuff surrounding it is sort of weak already. For a box like this, it's nice and sturdy. The enlarge or reduce spell will strain it for a moment, and then the spell will fizzle. But if it was like a weakened box, you might be able to rip things open. Or if there was like a door that was like inside some crumbling concrete, like the door might shrink enough to rip itself out of the concrete.
What if I magic missile the lock? Do I think that would work or no?
Definitely not going to work. Yeah.
Definitely not going to work. Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess then I will study, because I'm going to be here for a while. I'll study I'm going to try and find where he puts the key.
Right. And give me a perception check then. See how long it takes you to find where he puts the key. Well, you find it in the next month. He wears a ring of keys around his neck. It looks like there are 4 keys. One of them definitely goes to the front door of the tower. The other 3, you don't know what they do. It's possible probable, you're confident, you're 100% sure he's got a secret room in this tower that you haven't seen in the year that
I have
you've been
no idea,
here.
no.
You know that it's here because sometimes he's gone and you're positive he's not in the tower, and then you'll be like downstairs near the front door and then he'll be in the tower again, and there's no way he would have come or gone, and like he's already used his polymorph self for the day, and you're pretty positive he wasn't flying away as a bird. Like, there are times where his presence is just mysteriously there and gone. So you know there's a secret somewhere in the tower he's hiding from you. But that still leaves 2 keys that you don't know about. One of them could very easily go to this box with one unknown, or who knows what.
Okay. I'll continue my studies and try and think of a way, I guess, to get this box open that radiates super big magic.
Would you make me a spellcraft proficiency check, please? Very
32.
good. Jesus Christ, dude. You're fucking killing it
Making
today.
the rolls.
Yeah. How was I doing spellcraft?
I don't know.
Oh, I had a thing that we were doing this for.
Apparently it's lagging
right.
again. Just a
God,
tiny
is
bit
it
of lag.
doing-
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. You will notice him with the spellcraft proficiency check one day. He creates a portal, a short, instantaneous portal that makes him vanish from where he is. You can overhear the words to this when he's a floor above you and they're sort of echoing down the staircase. He's saying them softly, like he's trying not to draw a lot of attention to himself, but in the stillness of the evening with just your pen scratching on the paper, you can hear the words, and you know that this guy is like disappearing from this place and reappearing elsewhere, like vanishing completely from this tower via a spell. Now, you don't know the name of the spell because it's so far above your level and you're kind of new, but you gather that this is some sort of like portal opening spell, and we're using portal loosely here. It might be like a teleportation spell. It might be like a dimensional portal spell. It's something very similar to the rope trick first level spell, which you would be familiar with but don't quite know yet. And you catch him doing this a few times, and you realize when he does this, he's usually gone for a couple of hours before he returns. And you can use this to your advantage. When you hear him casting that spell upstairs in his room, you know it gives you at least an hour to find, to open either the box, the chest that contains your spell book and the ink and the components, or to investigate the rest of the tower. So what do you want to do when you find these like windows of opportunity?
Probably going to investigate the rest of the tower first. My character is obviously going to look for something else to take with him. He's probably not going to ever find anything, but yeah, he's curious in what Merlin's hiding from him. He's curious why he doesn't have the freedom to traverse certain places of the tower, I'm sure, that he wants to. So when Merlin's gone for that 1 hour, Nilrem is going to look around, see if he can find anything.
Okay. I need you to pass me both a perception check and an intelligence check.
It should be easy. The perception's going to be a little bit harder.
Off by 1. Okay. So you can't find it. But with your reaching out, you can feel that on the ground floor, there is something here. You've been investigating this area. You've been paying attention to the signs of Merlin's activity. There's something on the ground floor that isn't what it appears to be, or is hidden behind or inside of something else. But you can't find it. It emanates quite a bit of magic, though. You're certain of it.
Am I able to try the next time that I see him use it? If not, then I will see if I can read more about hidden types of magic.
Give me an arcanology check to see if there's anything in the library here. Oh my god, another natural 20 that can investigate a little bit more for you. And there certainly is. You read about Drexel the Bloodthirsty again. This is presumably the first lich in creation, a person who gave up their very own soul, their very own like life essence in order to extend their life, in theory, forever. In theory, they've been able to extend it without a fountain of youth. But the cost, Nilrem, the cost of this is first described as their soul, which doesn't really sound like that big of a deal. I mean, what does your soul even do for you, right?
Yeah, he's like, I'm not using my soul right now. Like, it doesn't really matter, but yeah.
But then as you read more accounts of Drexel, these are usually like second-hand accounts, you find that the person that he was before he became a lich had these like ideas, these plans, which are sort of being followed post-lichdom, but you can just like between the lines with that 38 arcanology check, you can see how the motivations have shifted and how in giving up his soul, he's given it up to someone else, which means he's given up a certain amount of control over who he is to another person, a certain amount of his very essence of what the decisions he makes, of the ability to sort of do what he wants, has been sacrificed. Drexel the Bloodthirsty ended up with unlimited power, or near unlimited power. But in doing so, he lost his core freedoms. Yeah. Not even like a willing servant. By all appearances, Drexel still believed he had full control over who he was, but you can just see how it's been shifted. How, like, with the analogy of a person on a boat, the idea is that you're on a boat on like a still lake and you can row in whatever direction you want and you can take your course. By becoming a lich, Drexel is still on a boat. He can row wherever he wants, but the currents are headed in a certain direction. And he can row against them, but he'll never really make progress. At best, he can just hold his ground, and then he can't go in any other direction. And I think it's through this that Nilrem understands that eternal life can come in a lot of different forms. If you go the route of lichdom, you definitely give up agency and individuality, and you bind yourself somehow to something else. You read about vampires and other undead who have extended lifespans, theoretically unlimited lifespans, but how they become the exact opposite of who they were in life. How all the things they once valued, they now hate, and all the things that they once hated, they still hate, but in like a different sort of love-hate way, you know? How they're forced to deal with their own horrors and their own sins, and how they see themselves as like a terrible, muted, corrupted, like aged being when other people see them as young and perfect and lifeless, and how that is also a route that leads to suffering and just like horribleness. So that didn't get you any closer to the secrets of the tower, but it did inform you a little bit more.
A lot of information on
about eternal life,
what he wants to become. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which will bring us to our next plot point. About a year and a half after your apprenticeship began, you're doing your normal chores. You're going down to the ocean, down to the dock market, in order to pick up some supplies that Merlin had ordered from a merchant, a group of pearls that are the right shape and the right size, the right perfectness for casting identify spells. And you've got the money. You make these runs all the time, like picking up stuff on behalf of your master. But while you're down here, there is a bard who has just gotten off of a ship from the Dardanelles, And he's telling this story. He's singing this song about a wild, untamed island within the Dardanelles, deep and jungly. And at the heart of the island, there is a fountain of youth, a fountain of eternal youth that the creatures on this island drink from. And the creatures here grow larger and larger because they never die. And an elephant might grow to be 10 tons, but an elephant that never dies grows to be 12 tons, 15 tons, 100 tons. About how on this island, huge, monstrous creatures, many stories tall, roam freely and unmolested on this uninhabited island within the Dardanelles. And it's a...
But this isn't the main island, or one of the main islands that I would take, where you said it was like Hawaii, right?
Right.
It's
not one of these. This is... Yeah, in the Dardanelles, I think there's 60, 77 islands or something like that. And some of them are uninhabited. Mm-hmm. Not all of them have civilization on them. So this must be one of those uninhabited islands. If the story is even remotely true, and knowing bards, it might not be. But this guy claims to have seen it. He claims to have seen a short, squat fountain with 2 levels. One down, maybe 1.5 feet off the ground, made of this gray stone, overgrown with thick vines with broad leaves on them. And then a second, slightly higher bit, maybe 3.5 feet off the ground, with its own little bath up there that the water flows out of and comes back down. And how this fountain is powered was beyond the bard who witnessed it. It was just... in the middle of nowhere, flowing up, spilling over, and the wildlife around it was thick and heavy. And that's when the giant lizard came, and the bard and his party had to run and flee back to their ships to escape the island before the giant lizards caught them.
I've read a lot about the Fountain of Youth at this point, probably. Were there any descriptions of it? Does this seem to, at all match what I had read?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so my interest would definitely be piqued then.
Especially the details he gives about the 2-level effect going on, where you've got this large, maybe 4-foot pool at the bottom that's 1 foot off the ground, and then the second, maybe 2.5-foot pool that's 3 feet off the ground. That's a very specific description, which comes up over and over and over again. And the cracked gray stone that looks like it's 1,000 or 1,000,000 years old always shows up again and again in all of your historical records. And but you also hear songs or tales occasionally of people talking about a fountain of youth. And in most of the generalized stories, the fountain comes in many different shapes and forms. Sometimes it's a basin, sometimes it's just a pool in the ground that has water shooting out of it. But this description matches the old texts that you've seen, the old texts that you've read.
Once he's done with this song, I will, pearls in hand, or in my bag, I guess, and money on me. I'll walk over to him and inquire about it. Do you happen to have a map of where you visited in the Dardanelles? Did you have a navigator on the ship?
I had no map, and the clouds overhead swarmed and swirled. I could never tell where we were. Did we face north? Were we facing south? These details are lost to me. I'm not a man of the sea. You see, I'm a man of the song. There were so many islands of the Dardanelles. It's a strange place. Mystical maelstrom. Have I ever told you? And he tries to pitch you another song that he'll play if you'll just tip him a silver.
I wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
So you say it was in the Dardanelles? You're sure of it?
Positive. I'll remember that giant lizard for the rest of my life.
I know my character at this point knows that he's going to leave because he knows where his goal is. So he'll toss him a gold, one of Merlin's gold pieces. He'll flick him it.
The bard will give you a double flourish, taking his hat off with a deep bow. Thank you, and turn to the next customer who wishes to speak with him, and lose his attention.
I will start making preparations. So whether that be, probably it would be at this point finding probably Nick's character, talking about, hey, I want to leave, We can skip over that because Nick's not here. But he will eventually make his way back to the tower and wait for, I guess, Merlin to leave. And he's going to crack open, get his spell book, and he's going to try and open that chest with the chisel.
So why don't you give me a strength check?
Can I be assisted if I use like a big hammer or tool to like break open
The
something?
big
No?
hammer or tool is the only thing that's going to be allowing you to make a strength
Okay.
check to do this. Yeah. So you're not going to be able to break into the chest that has the unknown magic item, but give me another one for breaking into the box that contains your stuff.
That one hits.
There you go. One day when Merlin is out as a sparrow, doing whatever he does as a sparrow, you manage to drag out his chest from underneath his bed, not quite crack it open. The metal gets all twisted. The wood is incredibly sturdy. And you like see the gnomes out the window, like all of a sudden like alert on this pounding coming from within. So you quickly abandon that project, crack open this box containing your components, grab them, flee the city, and I think you head to the next town over, to Redport. I guess that's 2 towns over, because looking for a boat to leave here in Hillsborough.
Well, I guess before
wizard's
I
main
flee
home.
the house, can I try and? It's a big tower, right?
Yeah, 6 stories.
Okay, I'm gonna go take his chest to the top story, and I'm just gonna throw it off, and then run out and see if I can open it, or see if it'll be cracked open.
Yeah, give me a saving throw versus crushing blow for a thick wood crushing blow. That is a 10 or higher is a save, and it does not break. A 9 or lower, the box breaks on a d20.
On D20.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
Good box.
It's good box. It's solid. You get down to the bottom floor, take a look at it. The box is still intact, but you do see some sort of fluid spilling out through like the lip where it would normally open.
Alrighty.
Whatever was inside seems to have broken and spilled its fluid contents everywhere. Which is your cue to leave, because you stole your shit, you broke his box, and you broke the potion that was probably in there. And the gnomes have seen this happen. So you know that you can't stay in Hillsborough. If you want to leave and head for the Dardanelles or something, you need to go to Redport to catch a boat, because Hillsborough is too well known to your master.
I'll flip off the gnomes and tell him, show that to Merlin when he talks about my contract again.
They cheerfully wave you goodbye. They don't really give a shit about your problems with Merlin or Merlin's problems with you. They're just happy to have a job doing some gardening. And yeah, and you can go. You will arrive in Redport sometime later. You will meet Captain Winters and his faithful servants and take off for the Dardanelles. And this will be Nilrem's backstory. In the future, we might do another like flashback or two. And if we do, we'll find some like cool part of your story that we haven't talked about yet, or go into more detail on one of these little side quests. But that's that.
There we go.
Anything you want to say? Anything you want to add to your character's backstory?
No, I think we did a good job. I think we kind of fleshed it out. It's pretty good.
All right.
He has an 8 hotness, 12 grub score. Hopefully he impressed Merlin with his intelligence. It seemed like he did, because he was showing him off.
You really did.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. He will be devastated to lose his apprentice and his investments, and furious to learn that you've destroyed his elixir of health and stolen all this stuff. And also the disrespect of leaving unannounced. Ugh.
Flipping off his gnomes. Yeah.
If Merlin ever catches wind of you, you know he will come for you. You are legally bound to him for 15 years in sort of like an indentured servitude type of arrangement. And for every year that you are gone, 1 extra year gets tacked onto your sentence, is the wrong word, but your contract.
How old was Merlin?
45, 50, something like that.
Damn, okay.
Yeah. Older
right.
gentleman. Not too old.
I'll handle him one day.
One day.
Nilrem thinks probably very... he thinks like little of him, I guess. He doesn't think highly of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just kind of a failed wizard who lives in a tower, doesn't do any adventuring. He's just a means to an end for Nilrem, so.
Nice. Great. Well, we'll come back on the other side of our break with PotatoMcWhiskey's character.
Awesome.
Saol, and we'll see how Saol got to be where he is today. So
Bye-bye.
thank you, Mr. Mouton. We'll see you later.